Push-pull legs is the best split for muscle growth, they said. Well, they done lied to you. Kinda. When I first tried push-pull legs, my uninformed ass got the best of me, and I was literally doing 8 to 12 exercises per session, with 6 sets per exercise, thinking more volume and time would give me more growth. I was spending over 3 hours in the gym per day, and my parents were shitting themselves, thinking I would start degrading from overtraining. However, the only reason I was able to even do so much volume was because I didn't have my intensity or exercise selection in check, which are both key parts to muscle building training. This gives us flaws 1 and 2. Push-pull legs requires you to be on top of recovery and manage your workload properly, which newcomers are notoriously bad at. It's easy to get into doing too much volume rather than focusing on the basics like a few quality sets and exercises. So let's get to fixing this, man. Wait, but this is only 2 out of the 5 flaws though. Even if you were to fix just issues 1 and 2, the others will eventually come back to bite you in the ass. You could literally develop back pain or disproportionately small arms. I know this makes it all sound like push-pull legs is a terrible split, but it's not. It's when you don't know what you're doing that makes it shit. Don't let this happen to you, bro. Learn from my experience. I'll tell you exactly how to construct your push-pull legs workout so you don't fuck up like I did. Alright, so let's start with picking out exercises. If you're a beginner especially, all you need to do is 4 to 5 exercises for 3 sets maximum for each day. You should also have 1 to 2 exercises per muscle group, which should let you meet the 4 to 5 exercise mark just fine. I know online you were probably told to do way more than this. How could I grow from only 4 to 5 exercises? While more volume does correlate to more growth, you'll still make great gains off of even below 10 sets per muscle group per week while not having to walk the tightrope of recovery. You can't just think about volume as its standalone thing that you should always look to maximize. Recovery is like an HP bar for everybody, and it's affected by not just volume, but frequency and intensity. Your frequency and intensity should already be high since you're going 6 times a week and should be training hard, which means your volume has to be lower by default. Trying to maximize all 3 will just tank your recovery. Recovery is so important because it's where muscle building actually takes place. Training weakens your muscles, rest repairs them stronger. What's even more important is being recovered enough to where you can progress on your lifts to make steady strength progress. If you're constantly at the edge of volume you can recover from, you'll just be hindering your recovery, thus hindering your ability to add weight or reps to your exercises. Progression is the most important driver of muscle growth. If you are not progressively overloading in some way, shape, or form, you will not experience much, if any, muscle growth, especially in the long term. Keep weekly sets per muscle group to around 8 to 12. That will grow you just fine. Let's apply this to a sample push-pull legs workout you'd find on the internet. So for the sample workouts on a push day, we could have something like this. It's definitely above 4 to 5 exercises, so let's remove the unnecessary exercises. If you look, there are 3 chest exercises for 3 sets here, which is 9 chest exercises in 1 workout, meaning you're literally doing 18 sets per muscle per week for the chest, which is way past 8 to 12. You're also doing 6 sets for the triceps right after having pre-fatigued them from all the previous pressing movements beforehand. So let's scratch off the flies and the tricep pushdowns, giving us this routine. This is more manageable and you should be better off training intensely using this volume. With volume taken care of, that fixes issues 1 and 2. But there's another thing I need to address. If you don't have 2 days per push, pull, and leg days, you're fucking it up. So let's create 2 variations of our push days. I'm gonna call them push 1 and push 2. You can literally call them whatever you want. Push the first, push junior, etc. Here's the fixed push day from the last chapter. This one I will call push 1 from now on. This routine has a good balance of training muscles, however it does have a bit of a chest emphasis since it starts with 2 chest movements and puts the overhead press as the last compound. So for push 2, I will start with the shoulder focus movement instead, like the barbell overhead press, giving push 2 a shoulder emphasis. After that, all I will do is just swap out every exercise with a variation or something similar enough. Do note that the first exercise of the day, aka the main lifts, can be kept consistent throughout the variations. Some of you may really want to improve bench press strength for whatever reason. If you want to specifically improve at that as fast as you can within this split, then hitting your bench 2 times a week as the first exercise of your push days would be a good idea rather than switching things around. Here are some guidelines for swapping things out. Only swap out compounds for compounds and isolations for isolations. They are very different fatigue wise and you don't want to do too many or too little of either. Most programs by default will have a good balance of compounds and isolations. Variations of a movement are basically the same movement pattern but with either different equipment, bar placement, or tempo, etc. So for example, going from a barbell curl to a dumbbell curl. Also, do make sure that the variation you pick isn't just a straight up worse movement though. If I was doing barbell squats and I needed a new variation and then I picked dumbbell squats, I would be making half-ass gains because dumbbell squats just aren't loadable like barbells. squats. You'd be better off doing something like a front squat, tempo squat, or low bar squat. If you want to quickly check whether a movement is good, ask yourself whether this would be something you can add weight to smoothly over time without being limited by equipment or unracking. And that's pretty much it. You can repeat this for your pull and leg days too. If you have a split that repeats twice a week like push-pull legs, you should always create variations to minimize overuse issues, keep your body fresh, and maximize the flexibility of your program to hit muscles at different angles and weak points, and put emphasis on certain muscles during certain days. Now let's move on to issue 3. If you're focused on getting stronger at compound lifts, you'll usually encounter a lot of fatigue as you get stronger. For example, doing squats and deadlifts back to back several times. Also, only having one rest day for your joints and connective tissues is not helping. First of all, why do people even put deadlifts on their pull days? It's because deadlifts still hit your back as a whole insanely hard to stabilize the weight, especially your spinal erectors. It also saves time on your leg days to do more quad focused work and have squats as the main movement. Our sample program currently has us doing these 2 workouts for our pull days, but as I said before, doing a full leg day with heavy squats right after doing hard sets of deadlifts the day before can start to impose recovery issues, especially in terms of axial loading, which is how often you strenuously load the spine, leading to worse strength progress. So how do we get around this? We start by actually switching the order of the days we do the split. So instead of doing push-pull legs, we'll do pull, push, then legs. This starts off our week with deadlifts, but then we have the push day in between. However, after the leg day, we have another pull day. So what I do is just remove the deadlifts from that day entirely, and instead do a deadlift variation on the next leg day. This allows you to maintain a good volume of squats and deadlifts, give you an extra day for your lower back to recover, and also allow you to really hammer your back on the second pull day. Our second pull day should look like this now. We're missing an exercise, so we have another slot. In its place, I'll add a more rear delt focused back movement like face pulls to emphasize the rear delt since they are usually underdeveloped. Here's what the schedule should look like now. Besides that way of fixing it, there's another option which is more popular. It completely removes the hassle of switching things around. It's just simply not doing those barbell compound movements entirely and sticking to strictly dumbbells, machines, and lighter exercises in general that have less stability demand, especially from your spine. Now, depending on your equipment availability, you may not be able to do this like some of my home gym dudes, but if you can, this will help take away a lot of the joint and axial loading demands from your program, which aren't really bad things, but on 6 times a week, those things can add up much more than in other splits. So taking our sample pull and leg days, we can simply just swap out things like so. So we got that fixed, but what about arms becoming a weak link? You're usually doing some bicep and tricep work at the end of your push or pull days when you're already fatigued, so you'll always be training your torso muscles more fresh than your arms, leading to an eventual imbalance. Something you need to know first is that just because a day says you have to train certain muscles, doesn't mean you have to strictly train those muscles. So for triceps, what we can actually do is just move our tricep isolation work from one of our push days into the start of one of our leg days. So let's use the first one. It sounds silly, but now we have a day where we're fully fresh going into our tricep work, which will only take like 10 minutes, and it won't negatively affect our following leg movements since it's only isolated tricep work. Lastly, for biceps, we can do the same thing and add bicep isolation work into our second leg day. Instead of taking bicep curls out of the pull day, we can just leave it since the way our days are ordered, you won't be doing bicep isolation work back to back. Unlike if we kept our tricep isolation work on the first push day, we would end up doing tricep isolation work on the first push day, and then right after, doing it in the first workout in the next day. So pretty much every glaring issue is fixed. You have good volume, good recovery, no back-to-back squats and deadlifts, enough variation, and much better arm-specific training. But there's one final thing I need to discuss with you. Now we are left with issue 4, that 6 times a week for most people might just be too much for no real extra benefits in terms of growth compared to going fewer days per week. Working out 6 times a week can just burn you out, not just mentally but physically. It's a common misconception that only your muscles need to recover from each workout. However, your joints and system as a whole also need to rest. It's a lot more gradual, but overall fatigue still accumulates. The only thing you could really do is run PPL with a lower frequency than 6 times a week, but at that point, why not just do any other split with fewer days per week? Even just PPL with an extra day of rest between each 3-week wave will make it into an 8-day split, which means each session will be repeated twice for every 8 days throughout the year. For our push muscles, for example, that would total to 92 sessions per year, compared to a 7-day split which would total to 104 sessions per year. That is an entire 12 weeks difference, which isn't gonna be a no gain versus holy shit gains difference, but at least acknowledge this fact. You could literally be running any other standardized 3, 4, 5 day a week split, which you can still recover from, and you don't have to worry about the constantly rotating debilitating 8-day-a-week schedule. Don't even get me started with 3 times a week push-pull legs. It's even worse than the bro split when it comes to frequency. This is because with the bro split, at least muscles like your arms and shoulders get hit several times per week, given that you have a day dedicated to them, plus other days hitting muscle groups with similar movement patterns. A set of bench presses on a chest day will work some of the shoulders and triceps, but in the 3 times a week PPL, you are restricted to only one movement pattern per day, so there is no opportunity for any muscle to go above 1 times a week frequency, besides maybe glutes, and that's about it. So you're best off going with something like full body, which has way better frequency and is much more suited for beginners. These are just my recommendations though, you can still run the split you like best. Of course that will still get you gains. This one may not be an issue for some of you though. I know some of you dudes like going to the gym to lift 6 times a week, 3 hours at a time to fight your demons or whatever. More power to you, but if I manage to change your mind on push-pull legs, then I can make you a full routine, customized to suit you and your weaknesses if you subscribe to my OnlyFans. I mean only bars. It's my private community of lifters, grinding every day to change your bodies forever. I will break things down and make things brain dead simple for you to understand. Plus you even get free exclusive videos not publicly available. If you like the sound of that, check out the first link in the description. If you don't, that's alright man, you can always join the free community Discord if you want to interact with me and other random fitness enjoyers. I'm pretty active there. If you want more information on other splits, I recommend you check out other splits like full body and upper lower. I go more into depth about how those splits work and their pros and cons in this video right here. So what are you waiting for? Go start working and take action. You can like and subscribe if you'd like, and I hope you have a great day.